Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Medical Coding with Blue. So I'm shooting a double video today. So I've already done my first video. This is the second video of the day. And this one I have been thinking about for the last couple of weeks. This is a guide, if you will, to how to communicate with your provider for medical coders. So the key is communication. You want to make sure that you are effectively communicating with your provider at all times, because doctors are very busy people, nurse practitioners are very busy people, physician assistants are very busy people. And so you want to be able to maximize your time with them and get to know them at the same time with a very short window of time in mind. So when you have them as your audience, you don't want to dawdle with little small things. You don't want to quibble over, things that are really in the long run not very important. You want to make sure that when they see you, they're not always going to associate seeing you with, oh, there's the coder. She's telling me I'm doing something wrong again. You don't want to get that reputation. You don't want them to look at you and think, oh, there she goes with her red pen, or she's always fussing because of this or because of that. I'm not going to listen to her. You're not able to help your provider, and you're certainly not going to be able to help yourself if you are constantly fussing at them and they just kind of tune you out after a while. So these are some tips that I've used that have helped me to get a better relationship with my providers. So number one is the devil is in the details. So if you have a provider that doesn't really talk on a personal level very much, that's fine. You don't have to ask them 100 personal questions. You can learn things about them by just observing them. Do they, when you go into their office, do they have any sort of teams on display? Do they have a color theme that seems to be common in their office? What kind of car do they drive? They usually talk about their cars sometimes. I personally drive a very fast car, so I do have, mention of that in my office. So if somebody was wanting to know about me, they could see in my office I have postcards from Las Vegas, because that's one of the places that I love to visit. And I've always said if I run away anywhere, it's going to be to Vegas, because I just love it there. I just love the desert. I love the city. I love all the lights of Vegas. So that's part of my personality. You will also see Elvis plastered everywhere in my office, because I love the king of rock and roll. I know, very odd for somebody my age, but Elvis is a classic and he's timeless. So, and clearly his music touched every generation, So, but anyway, moving right along, if you really want to know somebody, if you really want to start building a relationship with your provider, pay attention to those small details, because it's those small details. And once you have that little thing that gets you kind of in the door and get their ear, you're able to talk with them a little bit more. They can relax a little bit when they're with you, so that way once you start getting them to relax, they're able to learn things from you, things that will help them be more efficient, or help them with their documentation, and ultimately help them to get all the credit they deserve. So that's just one thing, little details. You also want to make sure that you are setting the environment for acceptance and not resistance. So you want to make sure that when you're talking with them, you're not fussing at them, but that you can start out with something maybe good that they're doing, and then bring up the thing that they're needing help with, or the thing that they need to improve on. So there is a just a little way, you'll be able to figure it out after a while. And you have to tailor your approach to each provider. So some you're going to be more professional, and others you're going to take a little bit more of a relaxed approach. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to those things. If you are a shy person, it's okay. I mean, typically I am shy, although sometimes when I get excited about stuff, I tend to kind of lose that shyness about me, and I get a little bit more extrovert. So you get that way after a while. And then obviously the longer you are a medical coder and the more confident you are in your abilities, that's going to show. So when you have somebody that's very confident too, that's also going to help you, because sometimes people don't always want to listen to somebody that's, well, I'm not really sure and I don't know. That's one thing that I will say that will help you in your communication with providers, is if you refrain from saying, I don't know. So when you are saying, I don't know, that means it's kind of like a negative put out, I don't know. And so you want to say, well, let me look into that, or I need to reference that with a research really quick. Something like that. You never want to say, I don't know. You always want to be helpful. You always want to make sure that they know that even if you don't know what the answer is, that you are going to do everything that you can to try to figure that answer out for them. So that's part of building the trust. Because if they see you and they say, well, she doesn't really know what she's doing, I'm not going to ask her. On the other hand, if you say, well, I know if I ask her, she'll look it up for me and she'll help me out. You see how that goes? So that's, how you can help build your relationship as well. Emails. When you are emailing your providers, it may be just a tiny pet peeve that I have personally, but I hate it when I see an email, and I've seen emails before from other coders who've showed me their emails, and I just look at it like, oh my goodness. So you obviously want to be very respectful when you're addressing a doctor or, a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant. I wanted to say PA, but physician assistant. But at the end, when you are giving all, during your email and you're giving all of the information for perhaps a query or, whatever the case may be, at the end, don't say thanks. Say thank you. And if they tell you thank you, then, you can always respond with you're welcome. I just never like the shortcutting of saying thank you. Because when you say, like, thanks, it's like, I have a hair on my eye. Oh, okay. When you say thanks, like I said, it's just cutting off that sort of personal connection. You always want to say thank you. It's just, it sounds better. It sounds more professional. It sounds more sincere. And that's one thing that if you are not being sincere, it is going to come out. It's particularly on an email. So that's another thing. Don't ever, when you are writing an email and you are upset, do not send the email. Just stop. Take a step back. Maybe take a lap around the block or so. But just calm down and don't ever send an email when you are upset. Maybe you might get an email from a provider who is upset with you. So you have to remember that providers are very busy people and they've got a lot going on. So if they maybe snap at you in the email, you don't want to snap back at them. You want to make sure that you are taking the most professional approach that you can, and just realize that everybody is human and they all have bad days too. So sometimes you just kind of have to take a step back, take a deep breath, and maybe just table it for a different time. But you never want to ever respond back in anger or frustration or irritation. So they are going to make mistakes. You are going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But the key is how to handle it. So if you can take a step back and maybe table it for a different time, that's what's going to help you. So it's all about details. It's all about setting the environment for acceptance and letting them know that you come to them in peace and that you are not there to, make them do anything that, they don't want to do. Obviously you can't force them to do anything. And you always want to make sure that they know that you are there to help them. So that is very key in building a good relationship with providers. And your reputation will precede you, because if you get the reputation for being very difficult and for being, oh, I'm right and this is wrong, and if you get that reputation, it's going to follow you. Because as I've said in my previous videos, medical coding is a very small community. So even though it's made up of thousands of qualified people, you will be known by somebody somewhere in that, 10 degrees of separation or 5 degrees of separation. You will be known and your reputation will precede you. So be sure to tread lightly and make sure that you are doing everything you can to put your best foot forward at all times. So one thing that I like to do when I first meet a provider, be it in a clinic or in the hospital or whatever, is just to introduce myself and maybe not say anything about coding right away. You always kind of want to let them know who you are. Your provider should always know who you are. If you are in a situation where maybe your office is really far away from theirs and you have to communicate always by email, take some time and maybe swing by on a break or something and say hello, or just kind of show your face so that they kind of know who you are, because it's always a good thing when you can put a face with a name. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. And I like to, and this is a personal thing I've done, I get like a little paper bag and I'll put some chocolate in there, maybe a Rice Krispie treat or something, and like a bottle of water, and I'll bring it to them and say, hi, I'm your coder and I just wanted to come by and say hello. So those kinds of things they really do appreciate, because so many times providers are so busy taking care of other people, patients, that they don't have anybody to take care of them. So when you show that you care and that you are willing to take that extra step, it's all about taking the extra steps too. And when you take that extra step and you show that you do care, it kind of helps to kind of diffuse any kind of, oh my goodness, I'm meeting a new person and this person's going to tell me that I'm doing stuff wrong. It kind of diffuses that. So, and it lets them know that you are going to want to work with them and that you want to do everything you can to help them. And if you have to reassure them of that, then that's something that you do have to make sure that they clearly know by communicating that. So this is one of my favorite things to talk about, because I enjoy learning about people, and I enjoy learning about different relationships with people. Sometimes when you are dealing with very intelligent people, you do have to do those extra steps, and you do have to try a little bit harder, because they're very educated, and you always want to make sure that you keep that in check. They're educated, and so they're going to be communicating at a different level than normal. So because they have a different language they speak, so you kind of have to learn what works best for them. So I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, and this applies for providers as well. If you are having a difficult time communicating with a coder, let me know, and I can do a video about how to communicate the opposite way with your medical coder for physicians. Even though I am not a physician, but I do understand what makes coders tick, and how we communicate, and hopefully maybe that'll help somebody. So hopefully this has helped you. I've enjoyed doing this video, and if you like it too, be sure to like and subscribe. I will be doing more videos, as I've said, and fairly soon I will be doing coding scenarios. So I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you have a great day. All right, bye.